This is the I Can Do It Hour with your host, Diane Ray.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for today's show. And today we've got an amazing topic and a really fun guest. We're talking about relationships. Now, you might find yourself in a combative relationship. You know, maybe you're fighting with your partner all the time. You're just not seeing eye to eye. He or she is hearing one thing, you're saying another. Or maybe you know a couple like that, you know, the ones where they're always at each other's throats and you can't get away from them fast enough. Well, my guest today is going to help us with that. We're talking with Dr. Love, Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and her book is called Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, and she offers some cooling conflict steps here to rekindle our relationships. Really interesting reading. So welcome, Dr. Love.
Hi.
Hi, it's good to talk to you. Well, this is going to be a great conversation. I've had a lot of fun reading over the book, and I think that this has got to be a great gift for a lot of people or people that are having some conflict in their relationships. They have got to pick this up because you really offer some, you know, steps, concrete advice, things that people can do to make some positive changes in their relationships. And you've been doing this for a long time, right? Like over 20 years.
I try again. Only my hairdresser knows for sure.
The truth.
31 years.
Wow. So you've seen it all. Like you've seen all kinds of conflicts and things can be improved upon. You know, if people learn some of these simple steps in here, they can solve them a lot of grief.
It's true. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of pounding. You know?
Yes.
You know, and the thing is, we don't learn in school how to handle our emotional interactions. And in fact, we spend more time in emotional communication and interaction with friends, family members, spouses, partners, coworkers, but we don't know how to handle our feelings. And intimate relationships arouse very strong negative feelings. And especially in our intimate relationships, if you don't know how to handle these feelings constructively, you erode the love. You just erode it. It doesn't last. It's
so true. And you bring up a really great point because I never had that discussion with my mother. You know, she didn't sit down and say, look, when you get into a relationship, this, or this is going to happen. So I think a lot of times we end up just mirroring the relationships around us or our parents' relationship, you know, for good or bad. And you do go into that in the book, and I want to get to that. But I want to talk, first of all, about something that you brought up that's really interesting about some of the physiological things that happen during a fight, during a conflict. Right. That we might not be aware of. And I think that's a really interesting point to bring up.
Right. So in Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, I explain that heated fighting triggers a biochemical imbalance in men's bodies. And this biochemical imbalance dates back to prehistoric times when men were hunters and they needed to react with lightning speed to flee or to fight dangerous prey. Well, modern danger is no longer the ferocious tiger. It's the pissed-off wife or girlfriend. And when she comes at him, baring her teeth and berating him with criticism, his body sees danger and involuntarily switches into autonomic nervous system arousal, or ANS arousal, which triggers the fight-flight response. Now, women don't know this. This is primitive biological programming talking. And since women don't know this, when a guy flees, she gets hurt. And, you know, actually also in the book, I show women how to recognize the three ways that men flee from conflict. And, you know, obviously the clearest way is they leave the room, the house, they avoid contact. Women know this. Millions of women have seen this. But the more subtle ways that men flee, one way is verbal fleeing. Here they verbally escape responsibility, justify, defend themselves, make excuses, argue. And then the most subtle way of all is what I call psychic fleeing, where they're physically present, but they're mentally gone. They're deaf, dumb, blind, drooling on their tie, wearing a no hablo inglés expression, right? But a woman not knowing that these fleeing behaviors are triggered by biochemical imbalance, they just get hurt. Their hurt morphs into anger, but when they turn up the heat, they set off more biological fire alarms, more fleeing. And this is the number one fight pattern in intimate relationships and the number one cause of divorce, breakups, and domestic violence. And my method shows you how to break the cycle.
Well, I also wanted you to define, and I never thought there was a difference here, fighting and conflict.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Right. So a lot of people use the two terms interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. Conflict is inevitable in our intimate relationships. That is because we are separate people. We never see eye to eye. We have different thoughts and feelings. So conflict is simply a state of not seeing eye to eye, inevitable. Now, conflict does not need to lead to fighting, but most people think it does. But when you learn how to handle your conflicts constructively, you can avoid fighting altogether. You can work with each other and commune in a very loving way, even in spite of your differences. And that's what I teach you how to do in the book.
And don't you think, though, really a lot of the problem is being a good listener on both parties?
Oh, I'm glad. Wait, what did you say? I wasn't listening.
Being a good listener.
I heard that.
Oh, I get
it. I was being annoying. It's absolutely true. I always say that on the road to conflict resolution, listening is the super highway. Because in most cases, if we feel truly heard and understood, we are resolving our issue. Because if somebody just says to you, wow, I may not agree with you, but I really do understand you. I heard you. Or I understand how my words landed or how my actions landed. We feel in peace. So we can resolve most conflicts listening effectively. I have a whole chapter on how to listen. And it turns out listening is actually an active process that involves conveying that you truly heard and understood.
Right. It's so important because if you're not listening, then what are you doing? Making judgments, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, those judgments are way off. And
right.
Totally
and also,
wrong.
You know, the thing is, it's a ping-pong game because as I explain in Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, we have to learn how to present what's troubling us in a way that will help the person want to listen, right? Because if we're attacking, screaming, yelling, and we're doing all these heated, dysfunctional communications, well, who can listen to that? Who can understand that? So I show you, I have the first part of the book is all about what I call relationship climate control, where I show everybody how to cool the climate down. And obviously the first way is to identify and eliminate what I call the fight traps. Those are those faulty, dysfunctional ways that we communicate that really slam the other person and heat the climate and cause more husband withdrawal.
Those are great because as I was reading that chapter, I could really identify with a lot of these, either having participated, in them myself or viewing them.
She's copping to it. She's copping.
Oh, yeah. I'll admit my stuff for sure.
Adorable.
And there's, there's so many of these that are very familiar and will be familiar to a lot of the readers, counter-blaming, keeping score, and when you discover what these traps are, then you can stop yourself from just falling into it because you just do that out of habit, right?
Absolutely. Well, mostly we learn how to do what we do, as you said before, by copying our parents. So, and our parents, where did they learn? From their parents. So we just blindly recreate the fight traps, and I break them into open and secret warfare. Open, obviously, being the outright slams, the name-calling, and the character assassination. Then there are a lot of secret warfare fight traps that I outline where we're still heating the climate. We're creating more chemical imbalance and more fighting, but they're more subtle. Guilt tripping, whining, complaining, nagging,
Right.
They all heat the climate. And so the first thing, like when you go to AA, you say, hi, I'm John and I'm an alcoholic. So first step to cooling the climate and stopping the fighting is identify your fight traps and say, yes, I admit, I cop to it. I do this. And just through conscious awareness, it's like a living meditation. These behaviors just sort of rot off the vine like a pear, like a rotten pear.
That's so true. Just the awareness of what you're doing because you're doing it as self-preservation in your mind, right?
So you think. And certainly we human beings are creatures of habit. And so we like to repeat what is familiar to us. It's like a cozy slipper.
Right.
Even though we don't realize that, as I always say, while it may feel good to get your rocks off in the moment, on the rocks is where your relationship's going to end up if you don't ditch your fight trap. So it's comfortable, it's familiar, but it's really shooting you in the foot.
Right, and you're going to repeat this time and time again in each relationship, each subsequent one.
Yes, so take care of your business now, right? Or
right.
just have it haunt you again and again and again.
Yeah, look at your stuff. And the other thing that you mentioned I thought was great. So what about, and there's got to be people that are, fight junkies.
Yeah.
And you may not want to say to yourself, well, why would I want that? Why do I want that in my relationship? But you're constantly recreating it time and time again. And we all know those people, the drama junkies. They have to have some kind of conflict in their life.
Yep.
Now, how can we either extricate ourselves from that, or if we're causing it, realize what we're doing?
First, you have to be clear that you're doing it. And I have a test to see whether you are a fighting junkie, whether your partner is, or the person you're conflicting with. Then I have a little section where I help you identify what you're gaining out of it or what you think you're gaining. For some people, like, for example, I had a couple that I was working with that had been fighting for decades. They were fighting junkies, and they fought in a cyclical way. And at first I thought, gee, maybe it was hormonal. Wasn't that. It didn't happen at the same time of the month. So what I discovered was that this couple, they were fighting junkies because they were using the fights to get space. The both of them, when they got too close, became frightened by closeness, so the fighting served the function of helping them go to separate corners. And when I helped them to realize that, then we were able to teach them how to take space in a loving way, and the fighting stopped.
Right. And I can see where over and over again people fall into these traps that you identify in the book, maybe not realizing that they're fighting junkies. And then you wonder, why are these relationships failing one after the other?
It's true.
And that's what's great about the book, I think, is that you're giving people the opportunity, okay, look at this, through the various exercises and quizzes in the book and say, okay, well, here's another option. Here's something to do, which is great.
I'm glad. You're the only interviewer, Diane, that I've ever had, and I've done a lot of interviews over my lifetime. You really read the book.
I try.
You pay attention. You digest it. Very smart interviewer.
Well, I think I owe the author, at least to do that. But so many people can benefit from what you've got, the information that you've got in the book. And we will be taking some calls. We've got some people lined up right here that would love to talk with you. So the number's again, 866-254-1579. That's toll free in the U.S. or Canada. And then outside the U.S., because I'm sure people are fighting all over the world and need your help, you would just dial the U.S. country code, then 760-918-4300, and we will be giving away some copies of the book. So what's really interesting to me, I think, and I want to go back to this, we touched on it a little bit, is the old scars, reliving that stuff that you unconsciously learned years and years ago. I mean, and I did it, for years.
The old scars, see, what happens is people don't realize that we unconsciously tend to choose partners who emotionally resemble the parent that let us down. And we don't do this because we're gluttons for punishment. We do it because we're hoping to restage the original trauma and work for a happy ending, which would be, this time around my dad who ignored me now pays attention to me. And so we end up getting caught in these cycles where instead of healing the old scar, we relive it. And we do things like, here's a good example. A husband and wife are out to dinner, and he keeps checking his wristwatch, okay? And she blows a gasket. Listen, if you can't wait to get out of here and you want to get rid of me, fine, ask for the check. Her old scar created something I call the emotional lake effect. Now, if you think about the actual lake effect, where a storm gathers moisture that sweeps across the Great Lakes, right, and it picks up steam and force as it dips into the reservoir, right, of all that body of water. Well, our unconscious minds do the same exact thing. We're constantly comparing present-day offenses with the wounds we suffered as kids. And what happens is, as we dip into the reservoir of our unconscious memory bank, all kinds of old pain and hurt is dredged up, and we dump all that bag of crap on our partner. And this is happening unconsciously. We didn't even know this is happening. So that example I gave a second ago, the woman was blowing a gasket because her father never had time for her. So she unconsciously thought her husband was looking at his watch, looking for an excuse to get rid of her and get away from her. So the way that I help people get out of this bind is, you're not going to believe this, it's stripping. And I'm not talking about getting naked, okay?
Right.
I'm talking about how you strip away. This is a technique I have in the chapter on old scars. I show you how to strip away the overt content of the fight to get to the real beef, the old scar that's fueling the fight, making fireworks go off inside of you because you're really reacting to all kinds of old pain that was buried from childhood that's coming out and being dumped on your partner. And the beautiful part of this technique is that when I help you to identify the actual old scar that's been ripped open, you can now use your relationship for its highest and most divine purpose, which is to help each other heal the old scars. And as you help each other heal, we cool the climate down, and the chemical imbalances stop, husband withdrawal, and fighting stops, and we can really go on to rekindle the love that brought us together.
I'm curious, though, what do you think of the whole concept of soulmate? What do you think of that? Do you think that there's several?
I myself certainly have experienced that kind of love bond. You know, I was married for almost 30 years, and that's actually the subject of my next Hay House book. I tell the story of my soulmate love with my husband, who never left me. As soon as he left his body, he was still with me in spirit form. And I talk about that, and I explain how people can reconnect with loved ones in spirit and make peace if they need to. So the thing is, I do believe in soulmates. Now, if from a purely scientific point of view, you know, it's said that there are 10,000 perfect mates for each one of us worldwide, but I truly do believe there's a soul connection. And in that soul connection, it is also part of the pact of our soulmates to help us heal our wounds.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Because I wonder if, well, you said there are many for one person. Like there's not just one soulmate.
No.
Because the odds of that would be astronomical.
Yeah, absolutely. We have many soulmates. Some soulmates will perhaps be spirit guides, and some will be life partners, and some will be friends. And they're all. I think we travel in like soul packs. You know, that we were together in soul form, and I think that we find each other again in our earthly bodies, and then we return to soul packs again. All very mysterious, but I'll be talking more about that.
It is. Well, actually, Dr. Brian Weiss has said that souls tend to reincarnate together in different ways, mother-daughter, intimate relationships, and that sort of thing, to learn whatever lessons that we're supposed to learn.
And the thing is, yes, we do have a lot of baggage that we have experienced just in this incarnation. And when you join with someone, so often people will say to me, oh, we're really not right for each other. We're getting divorced. And I say, you know what? If you fell in love deeply and you formed this intense bond, you are right for each other. There's something that you were meant to learn and help each other heal and grow. And it's not that you're not compatible. It's that you don't know how to handle the inevitable conflicts and manage also the intense feelings that get triggered when we activate each other's old scars. And that's what we do. That's what intimate relationships do. We bring up the worst pain of childhood, not for any other reason, but to help each other heal. Use the relationship for its most divine purpose, to help each other heal.
And what do you think of the situations where couples will be together, 20, 30 years and then separate? Is it possible things have just run their course over that period of time and that relationship?
Anything is possible. Sometimes they were staying together for the children and they never managed to resolve their issues, and now's the time for them to separate. Sometimes their relationship has run its course, as you say, and they've learned and grown to the extent that they could with each other. I was on vacation in Martha's Vineyard a couple years ago, and I actually felt my husband in spirit form leading me down to the harbor at Edgartown, and he just said, go. And I went, and I ended up talking to a man who was just beginning a divorce, and within a few minutes he was weeping, and he was so in pain, and on top of it, he felt guilty because he was deeply religious, and his priest told him divorce is a sin. And I told him, listen, God will encourage a divorce if your soul development has stopped. And clearly it has. And that brought him so much relief,
Right. That's interesting. So we have about 5 minutes to the break. maybe we could take one call.
I would love
and,
to.
I want to get you to talk to some people because there's so much great advice you offer in the book. And also, I just want to let people know that these techniques, not only for relationships, intimate relationships, but also for siblings, parents, friends, anyone you're having a difficult situation with or a difficult relationship with can be helped.
I'm glad you mentioned it, Diane, because somebody told me, this was years ago, somebody had read my book in its earlier iteration, and I was in a professional group, and she heard my book, and she said, "Oh my goodness, I just saw a mother last week who told me she had read your book and used it to heal her conflictual, fighting relationship with her daughter, and they're in peace now." So, yeah.
That's
Works
great.
for any relationship.
And like you said, no one teaches us this stuff.
No.
So luckily we have you to help us.
I'm so glad I have you.
Well, let's grab a call while we have time in this segment, and then we'll take some more in the second segment. So let's go to Diane in Ontario. She's on line 1. And Diane, thanks for holding on, and you're on with Dr. Turndorf. You there, Diane? Hi.
Hi.
Oh, it's me. I got on.
You did.
I did. Okay. I tapped into things are supposed to work in harmony, I guess. I thought I was on a different show, but the relationships, my biggest one is with my mother.
Yes.
The relationships.
And you're having a conflict with her that's been going on for a long time?
A long time. It's always, I'm going to cry. I can cry. It's
Aww.
always, no, I shouldn't do that. I don't know how
Well,
to
those
say
are
it.
deep relationships. I mean, mother-daughter.
Yes, and it's huge. It's always been huge in my life, and I don't know how to rectify it.
Can you explain one specific, if you were, let's say we were Martians and we landed and you had to say in one sentence how you would describe the struggle with her. Could you boil it down?
Okay, boil it down?
Yeah, to one thing, because as you'll discover when you read my book, we can only resolve things in bite-sized packages, because one of the things that we get into trouble with is everything is wrong, and we can't wrap our hands around that, our heads, our hearts. So what I want you to do is practice with me right now, making a clear statement about what the problem is.
Okay, I hope I get this right.
It's always right. If it comes from your heart, it's right.
Emotional neediness, where my mother feels that, where are my children? Why are you not here?
Got it.
And helping her out and doing this, and then not letting us move on with our lives.
Got it. She's very needy and clingy.
That's the only thing I can come up with right now.
Okay. So here we are, Diane. Here we have an example of her old scar, right? Because when a mother is clinging to her daughter and saying, "Be my mommy, don't leave me," she had some terrible abandonment in her childhood. Now, when you read Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, you're going to see I have a whole chapter. Yes, there's a whole chapter where I show you how to decipher what old scar is actually causing a person to behave in a certain way. So you'll see that her old scar is a sign that she was abandoned as a child. And what happened is, because she didn't heal her abandonment pain, she's looking to you to be her mom. So she's clinging on you, she's demanding on you, she's choking out your life. And of course, you want to breathe, you want to separate, you want to have a life, and then there's fighting. Does that sound right?
It sounds right. A friend of mine had said at one point I should sit down and really find out my mother's past life. I mean, we've had a good life. Don't get me wrong. My father was very, really, really wonderful. But my mother puts the guilt on you.
But again, remember,
my kids aren't around.
Remember, a person doesn't. We're not talking about what went down in her marriage. For a mother to be this clingy and to not allow her daughter to separate, something went wrong in your mom's childhood. Either she was deeply abandoned, and so now she's looking for her children to parent her, or she had a mother who was overly clingy and never let her separate. It's one of those two things, okay?
Her mother and her father was very strict.
Okay, so it could be more like they never let her separate. So how do you work with this kind of issue? In the last chapter of the book, I have a chapter that shows you how to speak about whatever it is that's troubling you in a very concise way. I call it my XY formula. And there I show you how to pop in what's happening, what's being done or said, and that's the X. And Y is how you feel about it. And
hold on one second, Dr. Turndorf. We're going to jump to break real quick. We'll come back and wrap things up. So hold on, Diane.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll let Dr. Turndorf finish her thought. I'm Diane Ray. We're talking about Kiss Your Fights Goodbye on Hayhouseradio. We'll be right back.
This is the I Can Do It Hour with your host, Diane Ray.
And thanks for coming back. We're here with my guest today, Dr. Love, Dr. Jamie Turndorf, talking about her book, Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, where she's taken 30 years of her research and work, put it in this book to help people transform conflict into connection for a lifetime of lasting love. And we were talking to our caller, Diane in Ontario. And Jamie, you were discussing with her about the relationship with her mother. So I just wanted you to be able to finish up your thought with her.
Right. So, Diane, what I want you to do is study the XY formula. The XY formula, I show you how you can talk about the most touchy, conflict-riddled topics so that the other person will actually hear you and you will make headway. So what you would do with your mom is, and because I can feel how much you love your mom and you don't want to hurt your mom, your XY formula would sound something like, Mom, I can feel how painful it is for you whenever I try to, step away and, experience some of my own independence and freedom. And I just want to reassure you that I love you even when I'm stepping away. It's very important for me that you know that I love you and also give me the room to spread my wings. And the way you could give me that room is, and then you would make some suggestions about what would work for you, Diane. All right? Now, I don't know if Diane is still on the line.
Yes,
Diane?
she's there.
I'm still here, and my phone is beeping on me, and it's going to die on me.
All right.
So I'd like to know how I can get your book.
It's a sign that that's enough. Then what I want you to do, keep in touch with me. Reach out to me at my website, AskDrLove.com. Let me know how you're doing, because you're going to turn the corner with your mom.
Okay, I'm going to.
And hold on, okay? We'll get you a copy of the book. We'll send it out to you. So hang on, okay?
And keep me posted.
Okay, my phone's going to die, though.
Well, we're going to have him pick it up real quick. So, and if not, just email me back at letters@hayhouseradio.com if you get disconnected.
Okay.
And I'll make sure we send it out to you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Hopefully she didn't get too cut off there. So let's go to Patricia in Florida on line 4. And this is a great question because it's about a long-term relationship. So, Patricia, welcome to the show. Hi. So you're on with Dr. Love, Dr. Jamie Turndorf. So,
hi, Dr. Love. Hi,
Hello.
Diane.
Hi.
I hear your show every week, and I love it. I love all the topics.
I'm so glad to be able to talk to you live.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead with your question. Now, are you the one that's been in the relationship for a long time?
Yes, I've been with my husband 24 years, and I'm always when we do argue, my thing is I always want to make my point across. He takes it as if I'm nagging.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts getting defensive, and then that's how the argument just explodes. So then what I do is I just shut down and I stay quiet, and I let him finish. And I just want to know, after 24 years, how can we get back on track where we can see eye to eye?
It is so easy. First of all, the reason people repeat themselves, Patricia, is because they didn't feel heard from the last time around, right? So because you didn't get that satisfaction, you're like, well, this time I'm going to say it again. But you guys are in a vicious cycle. It's right, okay. So then the minute he hears that same old song and dance come up, guess what? He's already in ANS arousal, because that's what happens in chronically conflicted long-term relationships. You have these hot spots. It's like a psychological allergy. All you have to do is just say, oh, and he says, oh, not this again. And they actually are in ANS arousal, and they never come out of it. So they're never hearing you. So the way we get out of this is, I'm going to show you, you're going to follow the book, and it's going to show you how to re-communicate what's bothering you using different words. So we're going to kind of like go around his ANS arousal. We're not going to trigger it. And we're going to also use, as I'm going to fully outline for you, and you'll see in the chapter on how to present your issues, there's a section called the disclaimer. And the disclaimer shows you how to cool down a guy who's already in ANS arousal. It kind of is like petting him in the direction of his fur, so that before you even start, he's calm.
Right. Oh, that's good.
All right.
And
it would be something like this. Honey, I know when I open my mouth, you think, oh, she's going to be beating that dead horse again. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, phew. You know, and it's like, and I don't want to beat a dead horse with you. I want us to be close. I want us to be, you know, so I'm going to show you how to do that disclaimer, and then you're going to present your issue in a new way. Now, here's the thing. When you present it in the new way, you're going to have to do it coolly and calmly so that we don't set off more ANS arousal. We're going to use new words, and then you will be able to help him. Whether he reads the book or not, doesn't matter. You will be able to help him to respond to you in a way that makes you feel he heard and understood you. And that's what you guys are going to need to break out of this loop. And we can do it in a second. It's so easy. You'll see.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I do appreciate your advice.
And read the book. Remember that old read the book. No, read the book, and then call into my radio show or reach out to me at my website and let me know how well you're doing, because you will. You will.
Thank you, Dr. Love. I appreciate it.
And hold on, Patricia. We'll get you a copy from Hay House, okay?
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. And let's go to Judy in New York. This is a great question. She's on line 5. And
Diane.
Judy, hi. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Judy.
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Love.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, it's almost 2 years that I've been married, and I have to say that my question was about, like, when the honeymoon period is over. I feel like I didn't know my husband's relationship with his parents was so strained. I didn't know he was coming into our relationship with a significant amount of debt from a past business. Mm-hmm. And how do you, stay in love with all this stuff landing on you?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is, wow, hindsight's 20/20, because actually I talk about how you need to interview people before you get in so that you know everything about their past, their family, their money. So that has really blindsided you, all this information. And it feels like you are mad at him.
Yeah.
Like he's thrown you all these curveballs, and now your anger toward him is eroding your love. That's what it sounds like.
That's true. And I just find that even physically I'm just not like I was, because I'm going through my own stuff because I was laid off and I'm trying to figure out my career path and get back to work. I've been an executive in the fashion industry, and it's frustrating for me, and I've got these issues that he did not reveal to me. And I tried to find out things before I married him, but he didn't say any of this.
He didn't say.
Well, he glossed over things. He didn't go into detail until recently.
You know, the thing is, when we're in love, we ourselves put blinders on ourselves. It's like we don't want to know, so that when you're asking a partner information and he doesn't give you the info, you're so in love, you just sort of put on the blinders and you say, oh, it'll be all right, instead of having the red flags go up and say, wait a minute, I'm not moving forward until I get answers, you know?
Yes, I do.
So you kind of betrayed yourself in this respect by not sticking to your guns and getting the info that you needed.
Right.
So when you take responsibility, radical responsibility for your role in pulling the wool over your eyes, that actually helps you be less mad at your partner. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
There's a great empowerment in that, because now you switch from, I'm not a victim, he didn't do this to me, no, I did this to myself. Then you can go deeper into your own self-awareness and healing to say, why did I do that to myself? Why did I betray myself? Is that how my mom was? Was my mom a little bit of a doormat? But it allows you now to take responsibility, look at this part of yourself, heal this part of yourself so that you change the relationship from here forward. Because we can't do anything about what happened before, but from now on you can be aware of this. I let things go. I don't keep to my limits. And you will add insult to injury if you don't change it. So take responsibility for, I let him not tell me. I didn't hold his foot to the fire, so stop being mad at him. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Change how I'm going to be from here on in so that I don't let him do this anymore. And we move forward from here on new ground.
Okay.
Does that feel good?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you called.
And hold on, Judy, we'll get you a copy of the book as well.
Great. Thank you, Diane.
This will be really helpful. And we have another caller from Tucson, Sava, on line 3. And thanks for holding, Sava.
Hi, do you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you. And you're on with Dr. Love.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I have a question. I was actually in a marriage for about 14 years, and my husband, he had a lot of anger issues, and I didn't know that. And his father basically caused us a lot of problem because I was going back to school to get my doctorate degree, and he didn't like it. We come from different background. Not that all people from my culture are like that, but he basically didn't want me to go back to school to get independent, and
this
he
is
caused
not
a
your
lot
husband. It's your husband's father who didn't want you to go back.
He had a lot of influence on him, and my husband already had a lot of anger issues. He had gone through it and came home from work. At some point, I was afraid for my safety. To that point, So I never thought I can get out of that relationship. But about 5 months ago, a situation happened that I kind of one of my coworkers, she helped me. So I'm actually in the process of, getting divorced. It was very stressful, but I'm very happy and thankful that, I was able to do that,
Tremendous strength. So what would you say your issue is?
My issue is two things actually. Recently, I kind of I had a feeling that I feel bad for him. I know how desperate and the way that he was acting came from desperation inside him. There's no way that I want to go back to that relationship, but I kind of feel bad for him, and then I just want to just cut that, cut that connection completely. I know I need some healing time, and then the second part is just for getting into new relationship. I know I have some insecurities that cause me just kind of maybe maybe that was the main problem in the previous relationship. Maybe I thought unconsciously that I deserve to be treated like that. All
right, so let me just ask you one thing. Were you raised in a family where you observed parents behaving in an abusive way, or did anyone abuse you verbally?
Not at all. No, my father, I never saw them fight or anything like that.
Okay, so it's for you, the issue is not that you were repeating an old scar from childhood. For you, it's that you were not prepared to deal with anger. I've had this happen over the years where people will come in and say, I never saw this before. I didn't even know it existed. So there's an innocence about you. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
and then for the new relationship, I'm talking to a guy. He had actually the same issue. His wife was very angry, and we are talking. He seems very calm, and we are we have a lot of similarities. But my issue is, the thing that I think I need to work on the most is just sense of, insecurity, and I feel like I don't deserve to have that good relationship. You know what I mean?
So even though you say your family was not abusive, the fact is you have this little kernel of self-doubt and not deserving. And I would want you, when you read my book and you read the section on old scars, I want you to pay attention to what happened to you to make you doubt yourself? Because we don't come out of the womb with that kind of self-doubt. I never saw an infant come out and say, you did it wrong. You really should have turned left when you turned right, and I really doubt you. Something happened to make you doubt yourself. Either you picked it up, your mother was self-doubting, your father was, and you just sort of absorbed it by osmosis, or things were said that made you feel that way. So first we're going to work on you to identify where you got this feeling from and heal it. That is going to give you the right kind of foundation so that you will have confidence in yourself to know that you're going to choose a partner who's better for you this time around. Okay? Now, the second thing you said was that you felt sorry for this man that you're just separating from now. There's nothing wrong with having pity or empathy. We don't want to exorcise or, chop out our hearts. What I talk about in the book is separating feeling from action. So we can feel pity and empathy, but you don't have to act on it by going back to him or being his rescuer. You just feel it, know it, and abide with it, okay?
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
All right.
And thanks so much for the call.
You're going to be fine. And also, you're on the right path with the guy you're with because he's similar to you, and it turns out that homogamy or similarity is most correlated with a happy long-term marriage. So you're on the right
really?
track. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're on the right track.
Okay, we'll get you a book, Sava. Hold on.
Okay, thanks.
I think that would really help her, and then to stop second-guessing
right.
her
There's
decisions.
An old scar there, right, Diane? Because people don't realize, and it's not about pointing fingers or blaming our parents. We're the product of our upbringing. These are I call them the deformative years. So,
right.
We just want to understand where we got the message from, and then we make it conscious. Maybe sometimes it's as simple as, my mom wasn't very confident and didn't trust herself. She's my role model, and I started to think and feel the way she did. Borrowed rope. I can just undress from that. I don't need to hold on to that.
Right, and just identifying it is so helpful, and not in any kind of blame or accusatory way. That's just the way it was from whatever their experience was, and so on and so on. We just learn from
just seeing it all, and I'm observing it all, and it's fine.
Right. And this is a great one from Mary in Long Beach, and she's asking about stopping the flow of an argument on line 1. And you talk about some great tips to kind of stop yourself while you're in that process. So this is really a good question. So Mary, thanks for calling in. You're on with Dr. Love today.
Oh, hi, Dr. Love.
Hi.
So nice to talk to you. This
you
is the first
too,
time
Mary.
that I just, in the past week, have found Hayhouseradio, and just being able to tune in at various times is just so wonderful. So
we were meant to meet this week.
We were. So what I have found, I'm been married for 22 years, and that because more recently I've been involved with meditation, and I'm also a yoga instructor, and just have gone more deeply into my own spiritual life, that I realized how it causes suffering when I get into an argument with my husband, and it's kind of the same repetitive stuff over and over, and he is just not going to see my side or whatever. And so what I realize is when I just back off and I just let him talk, because I see what you're saying, that you're already in that autonomic system, and I'm already starting to go into it, but I'm like more aware that I'm not quite as into it as he is, and then it just kind of subsides a bit because I don't continue reacting to the words that he's saying or that kind of thing. So I'm just so interested in learning techniques around this, because when I don't have that behavior, I feel so much better, and it's so important for me to not cause suffering to myself.
This is made for you, because you're going to, by the time you're done reading it, you're going to know every way that you have been feeding the ANS arousal, and every way to apply first aid to stop it and abort it, and you're going to be just as cool as a cucumber before you're done.
And then also to understand the hurts from the past, like the things that were my issues and his issues, like to try to help each other. I love that you said that we're meant to do that for each other.
I know, and it's this has been so incredibly healing. I'm going to give you, one of the most amazing examples of this. I had a husband and wife come to me. They'd been married for 35 years, and she was saying, I'm done. I'm sick of you not listening to me and ignoring me, and I want a divorce. And I look at him, and he's in ANS arousal. He looks deaf, dumb, blind. And she said, I've been telling you for 35 years. And I said, I promise you, he has not heard you once. Because one of the things that happens when guys go into ANS arousal is something called cognitive shutdown. Literally, their brains turn off. And this was adaptive when they were hunters, right? Because if they were thinking in the face of dangerous prey, they'd think, well, gee, maybe I don't want to kill that tiger. Gee, I might not get laid again. I might end up hamburger meat in the beast's belly. So, no, I'm not going to think. I'm going to fight or flee. So guys shut down. They do not hear a word you say when they're in ANS arousal. So I said to her, listen, just one more time, tell him calmly. Use my XY formula. Tell him calmly what he's doing and how you feel and what you'd prefer. She says, it's not going to work. It won't work. It won't work. And I said, just humor me. Don't let your guard down. Don't trust. Do it anyway. So she does. He bursts into tears. He says, I swear to God, I never heard you before. I'm hearing you now. I will change. And P.S., 5 years ago, I got a call from them saying we lived happily ever after from that point on. And the way that that experience went on to cascade and help them both heal. She had been so abused and abandoned by her father that the more her husband didn't listen, the more heated she was becoming. So as she went on to be able to say, and when you don't listen, it reminds me of my dad who ignored me, they went on to further heal her, heal him, and this is why they were able to then use their conflict to really connect. That's what you're going to do.
Oh, this is fantastic.
It will work.
Yeah.
So exciting. I love everything about what you're talking about today, and I just want to get into this book.
I'm so excited you found me. I'm so glad you came on. You timed it well. So
Definitely. And we'll get you a book, Mary, because this will really help you.
Okay, great.
And keep in touch with me. Reach out to me, okay?
So hold on. And Dr. Love, I just wanted to ask you, men are getting or being characterized as the ones that shut down. And I think women do that a lot, too.
Thank you so much for reminding me to say that, because actually I had a couple that was doing the exact reverse. She shuts down and he was pursuing her. Now,
right.
Whenever you're writing a book or you're giving a talk, for the ease of communication, you simplify and you say, well, this is the general trend. Because more often than not, women are the ones doing the pursuing and men are doing the withdrawing. But there are plenty of cases where the roles are reversed and where women are withdrawing and guys are pursuing. And it doesn't matter. My method will help you break the cycle all the same.
Absolutely. See, I was reading over this over the weekend, and I noticed that in my own, behavior, because my way of handling things is just to try to smooth it over, and I'm not going to engage. And my husband, I withdraw, I'll shut down. And if he's very excitable, he's more an emotional guy than I am, really.
There you go.
He's like the woman, in the relationship.
Woman, and I hear that a lot.
And
I hear it a lot.
I'll just shut down.
And also, the techniques that I outline in the book work for gay couples too.
See, so everybody, we all need help. Every relationship, we need
it.
at least a roadmap or opening up that dialogue and that discussion, because we are not taught this. We just kind of learn what's around us. I think that's so true. Yeah. And there's so much that I wanted to bring up, too, and we just don't have enough time. We've only got a few minutes. We didn't even touch on the sex wars, which is a huge issue in a lot of relationships.
Yeah, I call that the battle of the bulge.
When I was reading that, I'm like, oh, wow, this is so perfect.
And how to read between the sheets. In that chapter, I call it the battle of the bulge. My husband actually didn't like the name of that chapter because he said that he, felt bad for all the people who died in the Battle of the Bulge. He was such a sweetheart in this way. But I'm just talking about the other kind of bulge, the anatomical bulge.
Right.
And I show you how to read between the sheets to uncover the real meaning. You know how we were digging to find the old scars? Well, it turns out our sex wars often conceal other scars from our childhood as well. And I have a technique in that chapter, Reading Between the Sheets, where I show you how to get down to the meat of the matter, what is really fueling your fights. It's like maybe it's not about sex, maybe it's something else. And I show you how to get to that, because if you don't get to the meat of the matter, you really can never get to the bottom of your sex wars and resolve
Right,
them.
and that's a huge issue for so many people, or where one partner is using that kind of as a weapon or a way of holding some kind of power over the other person. And all those other various
sex war games.
Ins and outs of the sex wars game.
Oh, baby.
We could probably do a whole show on that one.
We could.
So where can people find out more about where you'll be appearing and speaking? Is AskDrLove.com the best site?
That's the best place to go. And then there they'll find news on my radio about my upcoming radio show each week, Ask Dr. Love Radio, all on my homepage and at my website. And then, of course, on Twitter, you can follow me at Ask Dr. Love. Facebook at Ask Dr. Love, too. At Ask Dr. Love is Twitter, and Facebook is Ask Dr. Love, right?
Oh, perfect. And we've got another book coming out with you, which is great news, with Hay House later on over the summer. So we'll definitely be hearing more from you and on Hayhouseradio, too, which will be a lot of fun, because I hope you can come back.
Oh, I would love to. I have such a great time with you.
Come back and visit. But this has been so great. Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, available now at hayhouse.com or your local bookstore. And also don't forget to go to askdrlove.com. And thanks so much for joining me. It's been so great to have you here.
You too, and we'll talk soon, Diane.